pole line. We maintained the power. And of course there wasn't enough power to hook everybody up off of that line like at Elgin. There was a lot of people there. So they allowed the signal maintainers it was always a sneak-in job, but it was something most all of the maintainers done. Like at Elgin was the only one that had power, and I had to crawl up under the house and bring the wire up and hook it into an Aladdin lamp to make it look like it was burning off a kerosene.
What a sneaky
That's when I got claustrophobia.
Oh, under the house?
Yeah, that thing was right there, man.
Ooh,
When I got out from under there, I was never going back in anything that tight again. And then when I first went to Rocks, they didn't have power, and my boss come right down and he said, he made sure I had the material to go right across and pick it up on the line, and so I had power every place I was.
So you had a refrigerator?
Yeah. And at of course, when we moved to Tinnick, they had power there. You know, that we could hook up to Utah Power and Light.
Oh, it was all.
But when
legit.
you were a kid, did you have power?
Yeah.
Like,
Because we was at Tinnick, and there was power from the power company there.
oh, okay. What about phone?
Okay, on phones, of course, the railroad was way ahead of everybody else. They had, to begin with, they started with telegraph. So when all this texting you guys done, that was done with a key. And
I thought it was like a telegraph
they
thing.
would key all the, like train orders for trains to meet at certain places. They would send out what they call train orders and say, number 6 meet number 5 at so and so, or they'd give them a weight order, and then they'd hand that up to the trains as it went before they ever got together, so they knew where they were supposed to meet.
So what were they doing at the meeting? Handing things off? One was going one way and one was going another.
We was running trains both ways on one track, and then they'd have the sidings and
Right.
go around them. And
Oh, but they weren't handing things to each other. They just had to know to get off on the siding so they didn't.
first of all, they
Plow
had
into
what
each
they
other.
called it was a bamboo loop about that big around, and it had a stick about that long. And after they after they typed the message in, they put it on a clip on that thing, and the passenger trains would go by at full speed and the engineer would reach out with his arm and catch that hoop, and then they'd drop it, and then he'd go out and pick it up and get it ready for the next one. Then somebody had a little bit of a bright idea and come up with a stick with a Y in it and a couple of springs and with a cord and put the message on. Then when he went through, all he hit his arm and just took the string off of that.
How fast were they going?
Well, some of those passenger trains, they moved right along. And of course, they all didn't have to necessarily pick up orders.
Message.
What if he missed it?
Got fired. Threw him off the train.
Yeah, I should know the answer to that right now, but
Is that? Oh, it's a scab on your ear. It's not
yeah, I
a
don't
fly.
know.
Yeah.
You just didn't miss it,
No.
right?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know if
And
the
of course-
guy at the caboose, could he get it? Did they end
Well,
the
yeah,
train if
they-
you missed it? Because he would go right by it too.
They got
But
a
then the
backup
caboose
guy.
has got to know how to
Do it?
walk a mile and a half to the engineer.
Oh.
Maybe
And
he
they
just
used
had
to
a
pick up
backup
the mail
plan to
the
look
same
for
way,
if
only it was
there.
like at Elgin. They had what they call a mail pickup, and they put the mail in a mail sack about so long, and it was on a kind of a spring thing. And as the train went by, that was a metal loop that they'd take out of the baggage car, and it would catch that
Oh, it's
that mail sack, and they could do that.
So it was mail that, like you guys were putting in the mail.
Yeah, just U.S. mail.
Oh,
It was a U.S. post office at Elgin.
We're back.
So could you do packages, or did it have to be just small stuff?
No, I don't recall.
Did you have a good
No, I don't
snooze?
recall about packages.
Don't tip over. Okay. I won't move it
And
again.
of course, at that time, there was a lot of just handwritten mail that was sent. That's how they communicated with most people out of town. It was just letters and mail them. And
So did you do mail order like Sears and Roebuck and have them deliver
yeah.
the stuff?
If you didn't use it in the outhouse first?
that was when the new one come out, the old one went out to the cranny.
The crapper?
So that's no joke that you actually
it
did
isn't.
use it for toilet paper.
You could rip them out and waddle them up, and they wasn't too bad.
You had some.
Did he get
Better
it
than
out?
nothing.
He did. He just takes a little time to wake up.
Now, so I never did hear about the phones because you kind of got sidetracked. You were
Okay, the section foreman and the signal maintainer had a phone. And if the dispatcher or anybody wanted to get a hold of either one of us, it was on a 16 code thing that went out, and if you're coded,
Sorry.
there's a certain so many steps, and then you'd get a ring. So everybody was on that
This is
same
fun,
line,
Mom.
but they wasn't supposed to, it would only ring if they got the right code out.
Oh,
We had a maintainer that next to me, every time that phone would start clicking, he'd get on there and get everybody's business.
so now when you were at
So
home,
if there was trouble someplace on my district, the dispatcher in Vegas or wherever would call me on the phone and tell me where the trouble was. Then the minute I got to the doghouse, the CTC phone, we had phones on that went all the way through on the code line.
but like when you were a kid at home,
Okay.
did you guys have a phone then?
In the house?
What are you bringing? Something good?
I don't think so.
So it wasn't until you kind of moved out
I'd have
before
to
you
think a
remember.
minute what took place when we...
He just looks up.
Do you remember
Well,
getting
you
it
could always get a message out some way on the railroad phone.
like on the telegraph or whatever?
On this combination thing that
So you
Oh,
could
okay.
use it for personal.
you wasn't supposed to. Well,
Emergency.
but in other words, I couldn't call on the railroad phone from Tinnick down to Lehigh or,
And chit chat.
no. Well, I couldn't connect.
Oh, it was a
We
whole
was
different system.
connected on the railroad all the way, but that was it.
So if you didn't work for the railroad, there weren't any phones out there, right?
Not unless you was in a town where they were connected to Bell telephone or,
Hmm.
And
and
then
then
be
the calls.
talking to an operator.
Yeah, then the calls were usually, they had a monthly fee, and long distance was almost prohibitive because
Yeah.
the cost just went sky high on those. Okay, for instance, let's say somebody in Lehigh got sick or something and had to contact mother or something at Tinnick. In an emergency, you could have got on the phone I'm talking about and got Salt Lake, and that possibly some way. Then you hooked the bell, then you could have got. But that just didn't ever seem to happen that I can remember.
Because you were still in that state of mind. If you had an emergency, you would find a way to take
Well,
care
yeah,
of
you
it.
always, everything was done there locally. You took, the only way you'd know there was a problem was U.S. mail.
Hmm. So like when you guys got sick, as kids, were there many doctors around that were available, or
There
were
was
they?
one doctor in Eureka, and we went through the mumps and the measles and all that stuff right at Tinnick, and that was it.
Did he make house calls?
He did, yes.
Oh, nice.
One doctor for the whole town, huh? He must have been busy.
Well, if you think about it, there was at the time there was maybe 2,000 people lived in Eureka, and maybe 500 in Mammoth, or and about maybe 70 or so down to Tinnick.
Got a fly on your face.
You like grapes, buddy? Huh? You like grapes?